Members, we are moving without reference to file to AB 1674 by Mr. Santiago. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1674 by Assemblymember Santiago and others, enact relating to firearms.
Mr. Santiago.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 1674 limits the purchase of firearms to one per month per person. When examining the data on mass shootings, it was very clear that of 143 weapons used in the mass shootings over the last 3 decades, 72, exactly half of them were long guns. And in fact, in April 2014, there was one sale where 177 long guns were purchased at one time here in the state of California. To me, it's mind-boggling that any individual can need that many guns. So AB 1674 would cap the amount of firearms, period, that would be bought to one gun per person per month. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Santiago. Ms. Melendez, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. So again, members, I will say to you that I share the views of the author of this bill in wanting to reduce the number of people who are murdered by guns every year, but limiting them to one gun per month is not going to do the job. It only takes one gun, frankly, to murder someone. I could have 20 or I could have one, and it takes one bullet. So I could wait and I could buy one every month. That way I could wait my turn, and then I could stockpile them after the year. That's not typically how these folks who are doing these types of murders operate. I don't think it's that well thought out, and I think what you're doing is you're infringing upon the ability of people who do sport shooting or who are collectors or who are hunters, who just do range shooting for as a hobby. Those are the people you're affecting. Your average everyday constituent, and you all have them in your districts. Even the member from Hayward, I'm sure, has at least one member who owns a weapon in his district. This isn't going to reduce the gun violence that we would like to see happen. So again, with respect to the author, I'd have to ask you for a no vote, because if you're going to vote for a bill that if you want to vote for something that reduces gun violence, make sure the bill actually does that. And limiting someone to one weapon per month makes not one bit of difference. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Ms. Grove, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition of this bill, and I concur with the comments from my colleague from Elsinore. When you limit the idea of purchasing a long gun to one purchase in a 30-day time period, you think about Christmas 2 years ago, where we had 5 kids. We have 5 kids, and all of them got brand new Henry rifles for Christmas. So basically, you would have to plan 6 months in advance to be able to get your kids weapons if you have more than one child. I think about the competitive sport shooting that goes on in my district. I think about hunters. I think about all of those things which make a good argument, but the bottom line is the Second Amendment says that our rights shall not be infringed, and it says that we have the right to bear arms. And as my colleague from Elsinore put it so plainly one day in committee, it's the right to bear arms, plural, not arm, singular. So if somebody is a gun enthusiast, they do like to purchase weapons, they have safes of weapons, then that may sound kind of crazy to some people, but the bottom line, people collect cats, people collect turtles, they collect all kinds of things, and there are people out there that collect guns, collect weapons that are World War II antiques, different things like that. So to be able to say that long rifles have to be issued one in 30 days is just a sheer right violation of the Constitution. And on the floor, I believe it was yesterday, my colleague from San Diego stood up and was talking about a bill to allow prisoners to vote. And the comment that was made is that representation or taxation without representation, and why should we strip people of their constitutional rights? So the people that supported that bill the other day, I would ask you not to support this bill, because the same people that are entitled to the constitutional rights that are afforded by the bill that was voted on the other day are a different group of people that are afforded constitutional rights under the Second Amendment, and we should value everybody's constitutional right to own any weapon they so choose. Thank you.
Mr. Chu, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I rise in strong support as a co-author of this bill. I think many of us recognize the need to balance the rights of law-abiding gun owners with common sense safety measures, and I do think that this is a bill that strikes that measure. With the long guns that have played a significant role in our state's gun trafficking problem, this is a bill that will help us to decrease the easy access to long guns. And I do want to echo our colleague from downtown LA. I don't think there is a lot of sense in allowing anyone to purchase an unlimited number of long guns in the course of a month. And for any of you who oppose this measure, I would love to just understand what legitimate reason you could have for purchasing hundreds of long guns in a particular month, let alone in one day. In the course of my life, if I had purchased one gun every month, I'd have 540 guns. I could love cats, I could love dogs, I could have 500 of them in my house. I don't think, though, the opportunity to store or collect hundreds of guns in the course of a day or the course of a month makes sense. So with that, I would be happy to be educated on that, but in the meantime, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Ms. Waldron, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to AB 1674. This measure would unnecessarily restrict the ability of licensed hunters to buy more than one traditional sporting firearm within a 30-day period. There's no study showing that licensed hunters who must first take a 10-hour safety course and pass a test pose a public safety threat because of the misuse of firearms. Rather, safety data from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife reveal that very few accidents occur on an annual basis for hunting. It should also be noticed that just like other purchases of firearms, licensed hunters must first undergo a background check and waiting period. Rather than targeting criminals, this legislation will have severe consequences on firearm collectors, museums, charitable, hunting, and conservation organizations. AB 1674 would make it virtually impossible for individuals to purchase a matched set of firearms, which are sequentially serialized and typically require a simultaneous purchase to acquire the full set. Therefore, I urge a no vote.
Mr. Gallagher, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, yesterday I talked about the importance of this body, of this assembly body, in protecting constitutional rights. Yesterday I was talking about the First Amendment. Today I'm talking about the Second Amendment. And that Second Amendment clearly allows citizens of this country, of this state, to purchase, own, and possess a firearm. Firearms. It doesn't say anything in there in the Second Amendment, except if the gentleman from LA or the gentleman from San Francisco thinks you should only be able to buy one gun a month. It says you have that right. And it's not up to me to justify how many guns someone should have. It's up to you to justify why you should be able to limit what is clearly someone's constitutional right in the Constitution. Furthermore, this bill hurts small businesses. There are a lot of small businesses out there that sell guns, that provide shooting ranges. And a lot of their customers buy multiple guns a year because they are enthusiasts. They are people who like to shoot. They are people who like to hunt. And they are law-abiding people. They are not the ones committing the crimes. You're not seeing crimes committed by people who are going to a gun dealer and buying guns and buying multiple guns in a year. What you are seeing is criminals who buy them through a straw man purchaser, who buy them illegally on the black market. That's who is committing these kind of crimes when we see time and time again. But do we see legislation passed here today increasing the penalties for straw man purchases, increasing the penalties for illegal purchases of firearms? We finally passed the bill yesterday that makes possession of a stolen firearm a felony again. But we're not doing the things that get to the source of where we're seeing this gun violence. Instead, we're passing these kind of measures which will do nothing, absolutely nothing, to stop gun violence. But instead, it hurts law-abiding gun owners who are responsible, who purchase a lot of guns, because it's their constitutional right to do so and because that's what they want to do. And it's not up to the gentleman from San Francisco and the gentleman from LA to determine how many guns you can own. It's not up to them. It's up to the U.S. Constitution, which gives them that right. We have to stop as a body doing things based on emotion that don't get at the heart of what the issue is. We have people with serious mental health issues. We have criminals who are not supposed to own guns that right now, somebody mentioned the Department of Justice, they've only cleared 20% of the backlog. 20% of the backlog of people who are not supposed to have weapons, they're not taking them out of the hands of criminals. But yet our Attorney General is a proud supporter and sponsor of all these bills that go after law-abiding people, not the criminals. How about you start by taking away the guns from the criminals that you haven't done? Why don't you get that job done first? But we're not talking about that, are we? No, instead we're passing these bills that, again, do nothing, that will do nothing to stop criminals, to stop terrorists, to stop people who are mentally ill from getting a gun. None of these bills do that. All they do is penalize the law-abiding. Let's do the right thing. Let's protect our Constitution. Let's do, as my colleague from Visalia said, let's live up to that motto up there to pass just laws. Just laws are consistent with the Constitution and protecting people's rights. Thank you, members.
Mr. Jones, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, I want to recognize the author because I do believe he's being sincere in his efforts here to solve a crime problem, rising above the rhetoric and the hyperbole. I also want to recognize our colleague from Escondido for properly calling these items what they are. They're firearms. They're only weapons when they're used in a crime or, in a crime. That's the only time they're a weapon. Other than that, they're just a firearm. But I do want to answer the question of our colleague from San Francisco. Is it appropriate to buy hundreds of guns in a day? Well, I believe that falls into hyperbole, but let me answer it by two statements. Number one, as a law-abiding citizen, and he as a legislator, it's none of his business how many firearms I purchase in a day. But let's give a real-world answer to the hyperbolic question. Currently today, as Tom Brokaw has recognized, America's greatest generation is aging and are passing away in large numbers every day. Many of these Americans that have fought to defend our country on foreign soil, to stand up against tyranny, over the course of their lifetimes have collected impressive collections of American history in the manner of firearms, both long guns and handguns. Many of these collections are going to be coming up for auction over the many years and decades as these fine Americans age out. And if I find a collection of hundreds of guns somewhere in America that I appreciate the collection for its historical value, the U.S. Constitution gives me the right to purchase those firearms. It is not the legislature of California's job to restrict my ability to purchase those firearms. Now let's talk about the bill specifically. The author mentioned mass shootings in his opening statement and wanting to make sure that we are appropriately tracking long guns and making sure that we're limiting people's ability to acquire too many long guns. I'm sure the author is very familiar with FBI and law enforcement statistics in America that over the last 40 years, all but 2 mass shootings have taken place in gun-free zones. Regardless of where the firearm came from, and in those cases weapons, regardless of where they came from, it was illegal already for them to even be on that piece of property. And then the second statistic that I'm sure the author and most of us are familiar with is that in firearm shootings, murders, the smallest percentage of them are with long guns. The mass majority of them are with handguns. Ladies and gentlemen, as has been argued on this floor already, this bill does nothing, although the author, I believe, is sincere. This bill does nothing to address the problem of these shootings and gives us no fix. And again, burdens law-abiding citizens. I ask for your no vote.
Mr. Harper, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to rise to provide 3 examples of folks who may want to choose to purchase multiple firearms on occasion and should have the ability to be able to do so. One of the things I think that this body suffers from is the way our population is distributed throughout the state of California is that there are rural areas with very few people, but most of us represent urban and suburban areas with very many people in close proximity to law enforcement. If you and your family are moving to one of those rural areas far away from law enforcement, indeed, I think that many people would want to be able to defend themselves and their family in case that law enforcement needs 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, maybe an hour to be able to get to their home, as there are many locations throughout the state of California, whether in the Sierras in the northern part of the state or in the desert. Additionally, I think that many people often forget when you need a response to disaster. We often forget about disasters, whether it be fire, flood, earthquake, but as often happens, that's when the looters show up. How do you defend yourself, your family, your property? Being able to acquire firearms to be able to defend your family, your property, maybe your business, is very important to a lot of people, and placing a quota, placing an upward amount on the purchase of guns prevents people from being able to do so. But I want to articulate a very significant reason why people may want to purchase firearms lawfully. And that's another kind of disaster, one that is indeed man-made. And I'm not talking about revolt, as was celebrated on this floor last year, Los Angeles. When the Los Angeles riots were coming, it was in everybody's right to be able to do so, to purchase the number of firearms that they needed to be able to defend themselves, their families, their property, their business. Do not take away the people's rights. Do not take away our citizens' rights to defend themselves when we most need it. Because when the criminals show up, when the riots show up to be able to distract law enforcement from looters, thieves, and other criminals, that's when we need to be able to defend ourselves. Don't keep us from being able to defend our families and our businesses and ourselves.
Mr. Wagner, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me see if I can put this in the context of other constitutional rights, because, of course, the Second Amendment right to bear arms is, in fact, right there, black and white in our Constitution. Most of us have come from local government, and let's be honest, every now and then there's a gadfly who shows up, and they want to talk on this item, or they want to talk on that item, and then they're going to want to talk on the next item, and nowhere are we allowed to say, sorry, you only get to use your First Amendment free exercise right, or free speech right once this month. You've already done it. Shut up. You know, we don't get a chance to say to our constituents, if they've come to us multiple times, sorry, you've exhausted your right to petition government for this month, and we'll see you next month. We had a whole lot of felons that we allowed to vote with our bill yesterday. Never have we said to them, sorry, you don't get a free lawyer this month because you just got one a couple of weeks ago to protect your Fifth Amendment right. That Miranda warning, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you can say will be used against you in a court of law. We don't say this month but not next month. We don't limit the Eighth Amendment right to jury, well, you've already had your jury trial for this month, and if you've done something bad, you don't get a second one. We don't put these limits that we're trying to put into the Second Amendment on any other constitutional right. That should tell us we are very much on the wrong path, in uncharted waters, doing something that is fundamentally disrespectful to the Constitution, to the Bill of Rights, and to the people we're elected to serve. We don't have the right to limit their constitutional rights in the First Amendment, free speech, etc., Second Amendment, or any of these other rights. Your oath to the Constitution requires a no vote.
Ms. Gonzalez, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, I rise just because, quite frankly, we have to be honest with ourselves. I rise in support of this bill. We do, in fact, have reasonable considerations about our rights. We don't allow people to come to a city council meeting and speak for hours upon hours. We do limit how long they can speak. We do limit where people can assemble peacefully to protest something. We do limit, by the way, my right to vote. I get to vote once. I have a right to vote. It's in the Constitution. I don't get to vote 500 times because it's a right. We have reasonable restrictions. That's all this bill does. It does not infringe on somebody's right to own a gun. It doesn't infringe on the right to buy a gun. It is a reasonable restriction. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Mr. Mathis, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker and members, this bill is in search of a problem, not a bill that solves a problem. California already requires background checks on all purchases and 10-day waiting periods. We already have law that does this. The current law allows for one handgun to be purchased in a 30-day period. So there is no cooling off issue that needs to be addressed. What this could potentially do, which we've already heard today, is go after law-abiding citizens. We have heard these arguments. Now think about our wives, our daughters, our nieces. If my wife goes and buys a shotgun to do trap shooting, but then finds out that she's getting stalked, she can't turn around and go get a handgun to protect herself because now she's got to wait 30 days? This is ludicrous. This is nonsense. We have constitutional rights for a reason. It is our job as legislatures, again, as our motto, to pass just law. Hampering the rights of law-abiding citizens out of fear, under the guise of public safety, is just nonsense. Again, we can pass all the laws we want. Criminals are going to be criminals. If somebody wants to kill somebody, they could do it with a friggin' pen. This is nonsense. I ask for a no vote.
All debate having ceased, Mr. Santiago, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I appreciate the comments, both supportive and those who had some questions, but I do want to clear up a couple pieces. It does exempt licensed collectors, as it was mentioned that it didn't. It does exempt law enforcement. It does exempt transfer state and a couple other things. So I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
With that, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 42, noes 29. Measure passes. Without reference to file, members,